Call this meeting of the City of Port Colborne Council to order. This evening we will be missing Councillor Beauregard. He's unavailable this evening. So at this time, if I can call on staff to play our national anthem, please.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command, car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
And at this time, I'll call on Councillor Aquilina for our land acknowledgement.
Niagara region is situated on the treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The City of Port Colborne stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
Thank you, Councillor. We do have one proclamation this evening, item 4.1, the Canadian Viral Hepatitis Elimination Day, Can Help Day, of May 11th of 2023. If I could have Councillors Bodner and Hoyle move that. Are there any questions? All in favor? And that's carried. If I could have Councillors Danch and Elliott move the adoption of the agenda. And item 20.3 has been added. It is an amended version of the original bylaw, which was item still at 20.3. So if we could have this moved, the agenda moved as amended. Any questions with regards to the agenda? All in favor? That's carried. Disclosures of interest. I have one disclosure of interest for Councillor Bodner. He has declared a conflict on item 21.3 in the closed session, and that's the item for the Chief Administrative Office Report 2023-60. Are there any further disclosures of interest? Thank you, Council. The following items have been pulled this evening, items 8.1, 8.2, 8.5, 9.1, and 9.2. Any further items? If I could have Councillors Bruno and Bagu move the remaining items. All those in favor? That's carried. Yeah. I have items 7.1 through to 7.4. I'll do the minutes in block. Special council meeting, closed session of March the 6th. Meeting to consider March the Okay, so we're back in action, and as I said earlier, we have our check presentations for our granting to our nonprofits within the municipality and those that actually provide services for the citizens of Port Colborne. So it's my pleasure to introduce our Grant Policy Committee. We have our citizen member, Chair B. Kenny is here. Councillor Aquilina and Hoyle sit on the committee. And our public representative also is Brenda Hames, who is unfortunate she can't join us this evening. And I also sit on this committee. The grant committee meets twice a year to award funding to local nonprofit groups and organizations based on the applications they submit. The deadline for applications in the first 2 rounds was January 31st for this current year of 2023. The committee met February 9th to discuss the merits of the applications. Grants were allocated to 10 community groups and organizations. The committee is pleased to present checks to representatives of the groups. So at this time, I'm going to call upon our chair, B. Kenny, to present to Women's Place, which was recently rebranded and changed its name to Way Niagara. B, come on up.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. It's always a pleasure to give money away and give money back to the community where it belongs. So it's my pleasure to have, I think it's Amanda Brock. Is that Amanda? Yes. So Amanda, I know you'd like to say a few words about your Women's Place. The Women's Place is a great place. It's changed its name, but the service it gives to the citizens has not changed. It's never failed, and it's always been one of my very favorite since I've been on this committee. So I'm just going to hand you that check. And
thank you so much.
Okay.
I thought I would sport the new logo. Yes, so formerly Women's Place, now Way Niagara, a more inclusive name as we hope to reach more people and help them build lives free from abuse. And as was mentioned, our service, our life-saving services remain the same. For those in Port Coburn, we were able to help 47 women and children who are experiencing gender-based violence. And that's thanks to generous people like all of you who approved this grant. I'm a Port Coburn resident myself, and I always find joy in attending this evening to see where you invest back into your community. Thank you for caring. Anybody that does need help can call or text our toll-free number, and it's free and confidential. We do receive on average 8 calls a day, and we service south of Niagara. Anybody requiring shelter would be taxied for free thanks to donation dollars. And we do have an outreach office in Port Cares, right in Port Colborne, that people can access on Thursdays. And I encourage you to check out our website, birchway.ca. Thank you so much.
Photo, B? Well,
And that grant, the grant we gave them this year was for $2,600.
here, let me move this.
You want to be in the picture, Mr. Mayor?
Sure it is.
Yeah.
Sure.
Can you go in the center? And I don't want to get that door. Just go in between B and...
Oh, you want
A
it?
thorn between two roses.
Thorn between 2 rows, there we go.
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next grant goes to the Port Colborne Operatic Society. They asked the committee for $2,800 to help cover the cost, and we granted them that money, and so I'm looking for Melinda Ruberry. Is she here?
There we go.
Yeah, you're welcome. Congratulations.
Much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I know you want to say a few words.
Sure.
Sure you do.
Okay. We thank you very much. The organization has been around since 1945, so we're not new to the community. This year our production was Cinderella. Next year we are doing Something Rotten, and looking forward to be back in Port Colborne. Due to unfortunate circumstances, we were in Welland this year, so bringing Broadway home yet again next year. So please come on out and support our local music and theater, and keep it going. Come on for auditions in September.
Take a picture.
I wasn't expecting to speak.
That's okay. You're in the show, you should know how to speak.
The wicked stepmother.
Yes.
Thank you.
But I'm
Thank
nice.
you.
It's okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And because Brenda can't be here, Brenda Hames, as the mayor said, is a citizen on this committee as well, but her dad's not well, so she wasn't able to attend tonight. So I think this is being done virtual. So I've never done that before, but I guess she's going
We'll bring Kim up.
to bring Kim up, and I'm going to just flash her the envelope. Kim Rossi is accepting this check. It's from Pathstones. Pathstones, probably many of you are very familiar with this organization. The grant committee is very happy to present this check of $2,500 to help pay new furnishings at their new location. It's going to be called River House, where almost 4,000 young people from across Niagara, including from those from Port Coburn, receive mental health counseling. And it's a very important thing. As you know, a lot of young people suffer from that. So if Kim is at it.
I'm here.
Hi, Kim.
There she is. There we
How
go.
are you?
Hi.
Good. So
I apologize. Yeah.
on behalf of the committee, the grant committee, we have granted Pat Stones the amount of $2,500 to help with your furnishings at your new location. And I'll just show you the envelope. The check's inside, I guarantee you.
I believe you. I believe you.
I know you'd like to say a few words about Pat Stones and its impact in helping young people with mental health issues.
For sure. Apologies for not being in person. I'm struggling between dance classes going to and from in St. Catharines. But thank you so much for the support of River House. And as mentioned, River House will be opening in May, so that's just a short time away at 102 River Road, and designed to serve all of them. We know that you didn't have in the mental health space, and even more so over the last few years, we've just seen how predominant mental health issues and struggles are. And the sooner we can get to kids to help them, the better the outcome. 75% of mental health issues happen before age 25. So at Pathstone, seeking support and being able to offer it immediately is vital. So thank you for the support. It'll make River House look so much greater. I look forward to giving you a tour when we open in May, and I'll keep you abreast of all of those details on our
Great.
open house.
Good,
So
good
thank
luck
you
with
again.
that. Thank you. On the next check that Brenda was supposed to be here to present is for Joanne Mataya. Joanne here. And Joanne is from Community Living in Port Coburn and Wainfleet. On behalf of the grant committee, it's my pleasure to present a check for $2,500 to help cover the cost of van to transport clients to and from summer camps. So congratulations. That was helpful. So I know you want to tell us all about community living. For those who don't know about community living in Port Coburn.
Thanks, Bea.
Okay.
Yes, so thank you very much. So this money will go towards definitely servicing the individuals we support to be able to take those children and youth to the summer camps. That it is an unfunded program. Community Living Port Coburn serves those individuals with intellectual disabilities. Between our 9 group living homes and our community programs, we service over 200 individuals in the Port Coburn Wainfleet area. So this is well received. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to have to take a picture with you.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
we'll be in touch.
Yeah, give me a call.
Thank you. Yeah.
Let's go.
Thank you, Bea. Next, I'd like to call on Councillor Tim Hoyle, and he'll present to the Port Coburn Optimist Club first.
Could I ask Kim to come up? As president of Port Coburn Optimist Club, on behalf of the committee, I'm happy to present a check for $4,000 to cover the cost of our traditional candidate and to and the fishing tournament. That was the one.
Thank you so much.
You want to speak?
On behalf of the Port Coburn Optimist Club, I want to say thank you so much. One of the, what we do as the Port Coburn Optimists is our slogan is Friend of Youth. So everything that we do is driven to support the youth of Port Coburn. And one of the couple events, key events that we're doing is helping with or taking over, I guess, from the Conservation Club, the Fishing Derby on Father's Day weekend, so we can keep that alive because they were struggling to keep that going. And also our Canada Day event at H.H. Knoll Park, which we are in partnership with the City of Port Coburn to put that event on. And we try to make it as free as possible for the people of Port Coburn so that There's very few things we can do nowadays that doesn't cost money, so it's very inexpensive to come out to that day, and we want to give back to the community every July 1st. So we're pretty proud of the work that we do, so thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Got a photograph? You go in the middle. Really tall.
If I can call up the blue shirts.
Oh, yes.
And Reagan. Reagan is a new member.
Yeah, have them come up.
She doesn't have her shirt.
It's okay. I'm sure you won't block me.
I'm in everything.
Come over here, guys.
Squeeze in, yeah. Yeah, there you go.
That's good.
I won't bite.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh, you get to have your picture taken for a change?
Usually the one taking it.
May I squeeze in?
Yeah, squeeze in here.
Sorry. Oh, you should be next to her. She's the one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all set? 1, 2, 3. That's it, Carl?
I don't
Does it
know.
on its own?
Yep.
And then
Oh,
I'll
one more?
Don't move.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Now I'd like to call on Jesse Bowles. For the Downtown BIA, $1,200 to help the BIA fund marketing, promotional costs for the new events and boost in business.
Thank you, sir.
Good talk.
Thank you very much. Our first event we're going to kick this off with, we can officially announce today, is going to be a spin on what we normally do at Christmas, where we have Santa Claus arrive by tugboat. This year, the Easter Bunny is going to be arriving by tugboat. So on Easter Saturday, please come down to West Street at 10 a.m. Shipping traffic permitted, that the bunny will be arriving and then heading over to the Vail Center for the kids' activities there. A couple fun facts about the BIA. We are 45 years old this year. It's a made-up board of downtown business owners that volunteer their time to promote events and community and beautification in our downtown core. We are also the operators of the Port Coburn Farmers Market. Due to an MOU with the city a couple years ago that we are continuing on a path with, and the farmers market is celebrating 210 years. It actually predates the city, it predates our country actually. It started in Humberstone and we are 210 years old now. So this will go towards those little things like buying eggs for the Easter Bunny and candy canes for Santa Claus, and we'll go from there. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hoyle. Next, I'd like to call on Councillor Monique Aquilina, and she'll start with the presentation to Friends of the Port Coburn Lighthouse.
Can I call upon Scott? Thank you. Hi, Scott. It's an honor to present this check to you from the grant committee. It's in the amount of $2,560.71. And it's to help pay for the replacement parts to repair and refurbish the vessel to deliver the passengers to the tour of the historic lighthouse. So if you'd like to say a few words.
Definitely.
Let's go ahead.
Well, yeah, on behalf of the Friends, the members of the Friends of the Port Coburn Lighthouses, we really appreciate this. It's going to get well used. Just in a nutshell, about 10 years ago, the federal government decided that the 2 lighthouses, and you can see a picture of the one right behind you there, are surplus equipment, which means the federal government's no longer going to look after them. So quite often what happens is the next step is demolition. And of course, the last thing we wanted to see was Port Coburn losing our 2 lighthouses, which were really well built about 100 years ago. So our group formed about 9 years ago under originally the direction of Erno Rossi, and we reviewed what other groups do to preserve their lighthouse existences. And it's always tours, which is pretty easy for everybody else, but in Port Coburn, the 2 lighthouses are on breakwalls, which are essentially islands. So the only way we were going to do tours is by getting a couple boats. So we started out with Erna Rossi's aluminum 14-foot boat, my 25-foot sailboat. Then we moved up to, Pocomar was able to do it for a couple years. And then when they could no longer do it, we had to get 2 pontoon boats. So that's where we're at now. We're growing year by year, and this will go a long way. So thank you very much.
Stay here, we'll get a photo. Put you in the middle, you're the tall guy.
I'll have to get the lighthouse in the back.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Can you get that?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And now I'll call upon Debbie Burden. Debbie is the president of the Port Colborne Feline Initiative. So on behalf of the grant committee, I'm happy to present a check for $2,200 for the spraying and neutering of the feral cats. And I'm understanding that the increase was drastic this year. So if you want to say a few words.
On behalf of Port Coburn Feline Initiative, we really thank you for this. There has been an increase of the number of community cats that have needed not only medical care, but spaying and neutering. And we did 163 last year, but there is so many more out there. So this will help us so much. Thank you so much.
Come on in. There you go on this side. There we go. You and I can block the door.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Good. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Monique. And I will present the final 2 recipients this evening. If I could call on Allison Monovani Ozaki of United Way Niagara. Good evening.
Good evening.
So it's my pleasure on behalf of the grant committee to present $3,000 for basic hygiene kits for Port Coburn at-risk residents. So Allison, thank you very much. We really appreciate helping out United Way. And we know over and above this, the work that you do with not just in our community, but in Niagara as a whole, and we thank you for that. So if you want to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Mayor Steele. On behalf of United Way Niagara, we are so thankful and appreciative of the City of Port Colborne for providing us with these funds. Hygiene kits are such an important thing for individuals who are in transitional housing or in homelessness, to really provide them something that can be used to increase their dignity. So it's just a simple kit that contains things like shampoo, conditioner, soap, face cloth, and comb, things like this that they may be without and can definitely use for their own dignity. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
You got a picture?
Yes, of course.
1, 2, 3. I don't do it like that. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, I'm going to call on Terry Beck, principal of DeWitt Carter, and any members that are here from the grade 7 and 8 class. I saw some faces that we knew when they came and presented to us earlier this year. The grant committee is proud to present $2,000 for your class pollinator garden startup. We are all very proud of our students for this great initiative. And if I could have Terry come here to say a few words. Thanks, good to see you again.
Yeah. So I'm the principal of DeWitt Carter Public School. I want to say a very proud principal of DeWitt Carter Public School because of the students that you see in front of you. The hard work that they've put into bringing this forward with their teacher and with Miss Patty, we call her, is nothing short of extraordinary for what kids are doing at this age to make a huge difference, not only to Port Colborne, but they're really looking for global change in a very, very big way. It starts here. It starts at this age to make a difference. And by everybody here allowing them to see what their voices can do is such a big thing, and I thank you so much. I'd like to introduce Miss Patty, who is taking over and helping the kids a lot with the project as well, to say a few words.
Yes, I just wanted to say, all of you probably not recognize me, just so you know, this was not my initiative at all. I was asked from Stephanie Meyer to take over the role, and I'm here to also express to the public, also to council, first of all, thank you so much for listening to the youth voices. We need to do that, and thank you for giving us the opportunity. We're going to set a wonderful example for our community, as well as the students hearing their voices and they're passionate about this initiative. We're going to ensure it's successful. And also, I'm here today to say that throughout the years, I'll be coordinating it along with the principal as well as the school boards, aware of continuing this garden and maintaining it and make it a beautiful example of what we can do in our community.
Great. Before you leave, we're going to do a shot with DeWitt Carter, and then we're going to call up all our groups up front. So we'll have the DeWitt Carter staff and kids stay here, and Gail wants a group photo of all our recipients. So let's do ours first, and then we can do the rest. Great, thank you. Welcome back. And again, congratulations to all our grant recipients this evening. And I do thank my fellow committee members and Chair Kenny for doing such a great job with the first round. Again, we'll be meeting in July for the second allocation, and the deadline for that application for community groups is June 30th. So please go on to the City of Port Coburn website, cityofportcoburn.ca, under the granting program. Please read the rules and regulations with regards to applying and get your application in. And we look to have as many in the fall as we did this spring with regards to our community groups. And we just really thank them for all the work they do on behalf of our citizens. Our next presentation, we'll have Mary Murray come forward with a 2022 Workplace Survey Results Overview for the City of Port Colborne. Mary's going to go to the podium. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you. So for those of you that are new to council, this is a survey we do every 2 years. We've been doing it since 2016, I believe. So this is the second time that I have participated in this survey. So why is it important for us to do this survey? We want to make sure that we have strong employee engagement. Strong employee engagement leads to greater employee retention, a deeper commitment to the work of the organization, higher productivity, and happy employees. We're committed to fostering a healthy, safe, well-equipped, and productive work environment that positions the City of Port Colborne as an employer of choice able to provide an exceptional small-town experience in a big way. So the questions in the survey have a 5-point scale that employees can answer. Favorable responses would be a 4 or a 5, which are strongly agree or agree. A 3 is a neutral response. And an unfavorable response would be a 2 or a 1, which are disagree or strongly disagree. This survey, we had the highest participation to date out of every year that we've done this survey. We had 150 responses, so a 75% response rate. The survey is sent to all of our full-time, part-time, seasonal, and active volunteers. So this is great. This is definitely the best response that we've had, and that's what we want to see. The survey focuses on some key areas, the first of which is the City of Port Colborne, and the questions center around our mission and values, pride in the city and morale. The next series of questions focus on the leadership, so your divisional leadership, your director, and the senior management team. Then council, and those questions focus on respect, the chain of command, and staff contact with council. And then communication, those questions focus on communication across the city, within your department, and with your supervisor. Training and development, those questions focus on your job performance, the availability of training opportunities, recognition, workload and teamwork, which focuses on the workload distribution, problem solving amongst your team, respect, and working as a team. Our people practices, which is our policies and procedures, your pay and benefit, and human resources. And then personal satisfaction, health, and wellness. And those questions focus on your work-life balance, your working relationships, and again, morale. A total of 90 questions were asked on the survey. A score above 3 generally indicates overall satisfaction. Overall, 73.3% of the responses to each question were between a 4 and a 5. 26.3% of the responses were between a 3 and a 4. The areas which were our top scoring were positive supervisory relationships, a strong sense of satisfaction and a feeling of success and pride in the workplace, understanding of your job duties, health and safety, understanding how your job affects others, and human resources. The survey did point out some areas to focus on. Communication across all departments, having clearer roles and responsibilities, respect from peer to peer, more team members to complete tasks, pay and benefits, and those are traditionally 2 areas every time I've done these kinds of surveys that I see being in the lower ranking. And then council, chain of command, leading by example, and communication. It is important to point out that all of the scores were above 3.0, which generally indicates that overall satisfaction is high, and that's an improvement from all of our other surveys. Overall, in terms of satisfaction, these are the department's rankings. The CIO's office came in the highest with a 4.56. Corporate services was second with 4.33. Community and safety enforcement was third with 4.28, followed by museum and culture with 4.14. Then the library at 4.08, public works at 4.08, and planning and legislative services at 4.07. No department scored less than a 4, which is fantastic, and that indicates that overall staff are satisfied. The greatest increases were seen in the CIO's office and corporate services. Some of the comments on the survey were that we have a healthy and positive culture. There's a lot of commitment to excellence and continuous improvement, much pride in working for the city. Customer service is at the heart of staff's day-to-day interactions. Great team, strong leadership and management, a very strong group of corporate leadership members at the city that understand the direction and get things done effectively. A strong HR team that has just started having more presence in public works. Please keep it up. Professional, authentic, and caring staff. A comment that part-time staff are not always invited to meetings and can take time for information to filter down to them. Communication overall has improved. Excellent support with training and education, and accomplishments have been recognized. The last time we did this survey, we asked a series of questions around recognition in the workplace. We took that information and we've implemented various programs since then to try and increase recognition amongst our staff. Comments, really great to see, work with amazing people who are always willing to help. A lot of effort from leadership to break down silos and increase cross-divisional collaboration. HR has worked hard to improve things and has done a great job. Inflation has increased, wish my pay would increase more. Increase some benefit coverages. Working for the city is incredible. Flex time, work from home, respect, trust, health and wellness are respected. Implement a mentoring program for those to develop into future leaders. Some of our planned action steps based on this information is working to improve that cross-departmental communication more and understanding of what everybody does in the city. Some of the things that we're considering are job shadowing programs, continuing with our quarterly town hall meetings. We have new employee and seasoned sailor videos available on the bridge to help introduce our staff in the work that they do. If you haven't seen them, check them out, they're phenomenal. We're going to finish our joint job evaluation process with CUPE to ensure all of those jobs are placed in the proper pay bands. We're going to continue to implement programs and policies to promote a positive workplace culture. We've made some minor improvements to our non-union benefit package this year, and we'll be looking at our CUPE benefits in 2025 when we go into collective bargaining. We're going to continue to benchmark comparator groups to ensure appropriate staffing levels. We're going to create metrics for each department to drive efficiency and action planning. We're going to look at the creation of a job shadowing and also mentoring programs, and then create action plans for each director to address areas where their scores could improve. And that is it.
Great, Mary, thank you very much. Council, any questions? Wow, that's really efficient. Sorry, Councillor, you're too late. No, Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. Great job. Mary, I was just wondering, are you gleaning any sort of after comments that you can implement from this? I didn't recall whether there's, I know when we've done public surveys, we've had a comment box. I know Councillor Beggy was big on that. And I don't know if there's anything that's come out of this that's a learning experience that we can implement any changes to keep that up. Or how are you digesting the survey?
Sure. So we share the results with the corporate leadership team, and we have shared this presentation with all staff at the town hall. Every director has received their departmental specific results as a presentation, and some have already shared that with their staff. Others are making time to do that. And then we'll take those departmental specific results and information that the staff might share in that meeting, and we'll create an action plan to address concerns. So staff do have the opportunity in that meeting to provide additional feedback. They can also reach out to anybody on the HR team at any time to share additional feedback. The survey did allow them to provide comments throughout. We did see less comments this year than we have in the past, but they do have that opportunity throughout the survey to provide comments.
Great, thank you. Great, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Aquilina.
Through you, Your Worship, to Ms. Murray. The second document where you compared 2020 to 2022, is there like any sort of analysis that you do a little further digging into finding out the contrast between the 2 year surveys?
Sure. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, we do go through the results and we look for any significant differences if a score has significantly dropped or significantly increased, and we try to dig into that. We do also glean information from the comments because it provides a little more information than just their ranking. This year, though, I mean, most of our scores, we did see that they increased. So in terms of any deeper dives, really, it's just sort of that comparison year over year to the scores and the comments, looking for sort of themes or trends or anything that sticks out.
Okay. Yeah, there was just the one area, well, two areas, the employee value. I noticed a drop from 2020 to 2022, and the overall satisfaction, like the drop in museum and library dropped from 2020 to 2022, so I just was wondering.
Yeah, and so we do see drops in some areas, and there are things that we know are happening that might account for that. Sometimes we're having labor relations issues, or we're in a tough period of bargaining, we're doing structural changes, and so those things will impact scores. And so we sort of know those things are happening behind the scenes, so we know that they can account for the scores.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tangle up here. I'm glad to see it. The council part of it has improved greatly. I know when I first came on council, I think councilors didn't recognize the chain of command quite a bit, and we would miss the directors, where it looks like the council has more respect for the directors and go through the directors now, and I know I do quite a bit. And if we can improve any more, just let us know. We may not listen to you, but we'll...
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I can say that those scores did increase. We've seen very positive trends there. I think you've done a lot of great work to try and bring those scores up, and I think you deserve to be commended for that, because that is really fantastic.
Great. Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions? Seeing none. Mary, again, thank you
Thank
to
you.
you and your staff for this. This time we'll go into the Mayor's report. We were thrilled to have about 150 people with us last Wednesday morning at the annual Top Hat ceremony as we celebrated the reopening of the Welland Canal and the first downbound vessel of the 2023 shipping season. This year marks the St. Lawrence Seaway's 65th navigation season within the St. Lawrence Seaway Authority and the Welland Canal. The McKeel Marine Florence Spirit arrived 2 hours after the ceremony, but everyone understood that ships do not run like trains on schedules to the exact minute. But we did have a whole ton of people come back after the pancake and ceremony to see the actual top hat being given to the captain. Kevin Eklund and his team were up before dawn making pancakes for all of us, served with coffee, tea, and hot chocolate by Jane Nye and Nancy Salvage of the Port Coburn Fair Trade Committee. Many thanks to them and to city staff who were also out bright and early to set up all the tents, tables, and a warming, a very big fire pit with a very warm fire. It was a little smoky at times, but it was fantastic. Actually, everybody thought it was pretty cool with the smoke and the fire and all that stuff. So on her first anniversary as the museum's assistant curator, Tammy Nail presented the top hat to Captain Michael Rodaway, who came off the ship for a few minutes to sign the official registry and pose for photos to commemorate the day. We wish him and his crew and all the vessels through the canal a safe and successful season. We thank Corey Dutcher representing MP Vance Badaway, Mike Haynes, who represented MPP Jeff Birch, Regional Councillor Fred Davies, who was there, our good friend Wayne Fleet Mayor Brian Grant, and Jeff Boland, Canal Supervisor with the St. Lawrence Seaway Authority, for their thoughtful speeches about the canal and its impact on our city. And many thanks also to the town crier, Tom Picard, Rene Bisson for leading us in our national anthem, and to Reverend Jody Ballant for blessing all mariners. And also they did the mariner service the Sunday before, giving the blessing for the opening of the season. Calling all children to the promenade along West Street, as we heard earlier from the BIA, to welcome the Easter Bunny to Port Colborne. He'll sail in on the deck of the J.W. Cooper pilot boat in the Welland Canal at 10 a.m. approximately on this Saturday, April the 8th, the coming Saturday, April the 8th. Then it's hippity-hoppity for everyone to the Valet Health and Wellness Center for an Easter egg hunt at 11 a.m. It'll be great to see all the children at Valet. Saturday, April 8th for crafts, activities, and more, and all the details are available on our website. Each year, 150 young students from across the province are selected to participate in Ontario's Legislative Page Program. The unique educational program for Ontario students provides an opportunity to experience the provincial legislation in action, and forge new lifelong friendships with peers from all over the province. The program is designed for outgoing, high-achieving, community-involved students who have demonstrated responsibility and leadership. Legislative pages meet key parliamentary and political figures and learn firsthand about Ontario's parliament and the legislative process. Randall Marsh, a 13-year-old A student at École Saint-Joseph, has been chosen to serve as a page in the 4-week program at Queen's Park. Randall is a bright young man with an optimistic future. He's one step away from provincial competition in Legion Public Speaking, having recently succeeded at the school and branch levels for a speech about Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad. Randall was chosen to advance to zone competition. And we know you'll do well, young man, and public speaking is no simple task, nor is public service, but both are incredibly rewarding, and we wish you all the best in your public speaking and in your public service in our provincial capital. Access to quality healthcare services in Port Coburn continues to be top of mind for many residents. As I have shared in my mayor's report at previous council meetings, I continue to meet with elected officials and other key stakeholders to ensure this issue stays on the radar. To make sure residents of Port Coburn have a voice on this important issue, I'm also striking a task force to focus on healthcare services within our community. The task force will have frontline workers, primary care workers, doctors, nurses, seniors, patients, and more. Right now, we're still in the process of putting this group together. If you are interested in participating, please let my office know by sending a letter of interest to my office at mayoradmin, that's MAYORADMIN, at portcoburn.ca. mayoradmin at portcoburn.ca, or you can call Gail Todd at the City of Port Coburn within the mayor's office. And there will be more to come in the task force in the few weeks to come as we move forward with this. Council, that is the end of my report. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Councillor Davies is away, so he won't be joining us this evening. Are there any regional councillor items to be brought up? Councillor Bruno?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a big thank you to Fred, and if you were involved in that too, and regional staff. Fred got on that signage issue on Welland Street by the Middle Bridge, and it was fixed within a couple days. So thank you, Fred.
Good.
You can pass that on.
Thank you. No other questions? At this time, I'll go to staff. We do have some staff remarks this evening. I'll start up here. Clerk's office, CAO.
Sure, thank you, Your Worship. Just two items. A few items were directed to me by email by council members to be addressed at the meeting, and different staff members I've delegated to provide those responses. The two items I do have is a follow-up that will be of interest to you, because council asked you and I to speak to the police about Miller Road speeding, and I know they've been out there more than once to do radar enforcement, sort of a blitz on Miller Road in Ward 4, and issued a number of tickets both times, including, I just have some notes here from the local staff sergeant, a record of 108 kilometers per hour in an 80 zone, and an average of 102 to 104 kilometers per hour, and they are not taking the issue lightly. They're making sure that those fines are issued. The second one I'm a little reluctant to mention, but just because I give it a little bit of credibility, but I had a resident reach out to me who I'm friendly with about some social media posts on sites that the city is not allowed to, or the administrators of the site have blocked the city from providing the correct information, but a person has asserted that the city has signed on to the 15-minute city initiative. This is an urban planning initiative that started overseas and is coming into Canada gradually. You can Google it. I won't go into the details here. Might be a good thing, might be a bad thing, not for me to decide, but the city has not signed on to the 15-minute city initiative. That would only be done by council in an open public meeting of council. We don't do things like that behind closed doors. It's never been entertained by council, and to say that we have is just not true. So for that resident who asked me to clear the air, we can't get on the social media to clear the air. So hopefully doing it here helps people to be reassured that that didn't happen. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. C. And just to add to the NRP, they also did a blitz on Highway 58 near Oakwood School Crossing. And if you saw in the paper, there were 2 drivers that were charged with stunting. Vehicles were impounded, licenses were temporarily suspended. So, you know, the word is getting out, and we do appreciate our local NRP and our OPP, because they've been in that same area in the past when Councillor Bruno's brought that forward. So, again, if any councillor has an issue with any area, please get that to my office, and Gail and I will make sure that it gets to our local staff sergeant. I'll start with Joe.
Thank you. Through your leadership. As a follow-up further to traffic concerns,
Sorry. Through you, Your Worship, speaking of traffic control and issues related to traffic, staff and the region have done some review of the Elm Street and Main Street intersection, further to a delegation that was received back in December 13th here at Council. Just as some of the items that we completed since then, review of the pedestrian crosswalk interval timing and lights was completed by the Regional of Niagara Transportation staff and confirmed the timing met the current guidelines. However, due to the request, the region has agreed to increase both the walk and the don't walk time intervals. Another item that was completed was both regional staff and city staff have agreed in the spring of this year to complete an inventory of the existing signs and determine if additional signs are required after completing a speed study. And the Region of Transportation staff also completed a large truck turning path at the intersection and have noted that there were constraints due to the existing geometry of the intersection. The region has indicated that they have no plans of making improvements in the near future. However, when that road was due for construction, a review of that would be, a design would be reviewed. Sorry, a few more items to deal with. City infrastructure staff also reviewed the city's dedicated truck route and are in the process of considering altering that truck traffic to use Highway 58 instead of Elm Street. Once this review is completed, we'll follow up with council. There's been resurfacing works as well that's been scheduled on Elm Street between Charles and Main, and this is going to be part of the 2023 road resurfacing project. The region has also indicated that they're interested in cost sharing and adding to the project and possibly completing the full intersection, all 3 legs. So that would be definitely a benefit to traffic coming through the intersection. City staff have contacted Niagara Regional Police Traffic Division, and that's to address vehicles cutting through the gas station. I did meet with the owners of the gas station. They advised us that a number of cars go through there daily on a regular basis. So NRP has agreed to have an unmarked car sit near the entrance looking for that and charging vehicles that are going to go through there. The owner of the gas station also indicated that he'd be putting a sign on his private property as well. Almost 2 more items. One was the truck's signage to avoid the use of engine brakes. There's 2 signs that are located on Elm Street indicating this. The Niagara region did agree to add similar signs on Main Street where appropriate. And last but not least, children at play signs just south of George Street have been installed to address kids crossing near the park. And that concludes the update.
Great, thanks, Joe. Chief?
I'm good tonight.
Steve? Brian?
Thank you, Mayor, to Council. 2, I guess, updates. One quick update, and I apologize to Councillor Bagu. He had asked for a Canal Days report, and that was delayed till the next council meeting, but we'll have the supervisor of events here, and we'll tackle that report next week. The other is just to give Council a quick update on Nickel Beach. There's a lot going on at Nickel Beach, so Our project manager gave me a couple updates, so I'm just going to read them out for council. With respect to Nickel Beach, all the parking lots have been cleared of vegetation and the scrub brush. There's been some specific questions with respect to trees around the entrance, and there were about 12 trees removed at the entrance. We do have a plan to plant 17 trees around the entrance area. We have been also as a city, and I don't know if all residents know this, but we have been working on developing an urban forest plan, which will help dictate where future trees are planted. And a couple interesting information just for those that have had a number of questions about the trees. Last year, the city actually planted 173 trees. We gave away 300 trees. And this year, we're anticipating that on Earth Day, the goal is to give away about 400 trees. So there is a lot of effort and I think ongoing work on the on some of the trees activity within the city. A couple other updates. The design, the environmental, and the geotechnical consultants continue to work on all the lots. With respect to the accessibility parking, I think anybody that's been down to Nickel Beach will see that that is well underway. Construction should begin there relatively soon. You can already see the earth kind of moved around to be able to do that. We have found a way to incorporate greenscaping, and in that location as well as all the others, we are working with a local expert to make sure we find suitable native species to be able to plant in those areas. A couple other quick updates here. The electrical and structural contractors are working, so that way we can bring the washrooms down. Some have already seen the pictures of the washrooms, and they're right now being stored up in the valet parking lot. But those washrooms will be down for the May 2-4 weekend when we plan to open. And I think a question that many people are asking is, are we on budget? Right now we are tracking under budget, and we anticipate to have a future report on that at a future council meeting. That's my update.
Thank you, Brian. Gary? Anything? And I know we have Mr. Higginbotham. Podium.
Yeah, through your worship to council, I wanted to inform council tonight that I was asked to attend a virtual meeting on March 20th that was hosted by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry regarding floating accommodations and proposed changes to allowing floating accommodations on Ontario public lands. And ministry representatives were clear from the very start of that meeting that the proposed changes would only pertain to Ontario public land, and that also covers waterways. So they showed us a map at the beginning of the presentation, and I also went online to look at Ontario's public land atlas to verify that Ontario Crown lands extend as far south as Belleville, and most of those Ontario Crown lands are located in central and mid-northern Ontario. So seeing as where Port Coburn is located in our situation here, and the fact that the provincial and federal governments have shared jurisdiction over the Great Lakes and the Welland Canal, that staff recommend that no further action be taken with regards to providing input and feedback to the provincial government on floating accommodations.
Great, thanks, Greg. Any other staff comments or updates? Okay. Thank you all. And councillors' remarks. I think I started with you, councillor, last meeting, didn't I? No? Yes, thank you. Councillor Bodner, I'll start with you this week.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple. Through you to, I think the CAO may have an answer to this, but been dealing with a cell tower in Bethel that hasn't had the lights on for quite some time. And I just wonder whether the CAO can give us an update on that.
Sure, through your worship to Councillor Bodner, that it is true that down off 3rd Concession, I think it is, there's a no flashing light on the microwave or cell tower. I think it's Canada Microwave or Canadian Microwave that owns it. You first asked staff, or I guess like a resident reported it to you at the start of February. It took us a while to pin down the owner, get some contact information, and then get a reply. Sometimes we don't control how long the replies take. The gentleman who replied from that company said that he was on vacation and only replied this last Friday from the start of February. And the reply was affirmative, they will fix it. It was vague there was no information about timing or I'm not even sure if there's, and this is planning staff, sorry. I should have prefaced my answer through your worship to Councillor Bodner by saying planning staff is online, but I have been fully apprised, so I feel comfortable answering that the chief planner told me that they are going to fix it, they're aware of it, but didn't provide a timeline or if there's a legislative requirement for the number of days. So I can follow up with email to that person and see if I can pin them down on a little bit more information. But for now, they are aware and do intend to repair it.
Councillor?
Thank you. So just to that point, I don't think that's the only cell tower we have with lights on in the city. Can we get some kind of a protocol to actually get on this quicker than it took us to do this one? Because it has been out for, actually, the resident tells me, maybe 3 months. Councillor Bruno and I are both on the airport commission, and I checked with our facilities operator, and he did confirm that it's dangerous for pilots, and not only at night, but in the daytime. Those things can kind of disappear into the skyline. So this is not something we should have to wait on. And I appreciate the CAO saying, is there a legislative requirement to fix that from the company in a certain amount of time? So if I could ask that we check the cell towers we do have a contact person so that we can react rather quickly to this. And also, if members of the public, I can't believe I didn't see that out. I drive down Miller Road often, and when it's there, you notice it, but when the lights aren't there, I guess I just didn't see it. But anyways, if we could have some kind of a protocol to react to this in a very quick manner, I think it'd be best for everyone on that.
Do you want me to just, sure, through your worship to Councillor Bodner, I think maybe the best path forward is the same as council asked staff to participate in the floating accommodations consultation and then come back to council like Greg did today, like Mr. Higginbotham did today. Why don't I have staff look into it and verbally update council at the next meeting and see if there's a way that we can institute a reporting framework for the public to let us know, and B, some kind of a registry where we have contact information and can get folks to make the repair in a timely manner. And then while she's giving that update, we can probably also let council know if there's a legislative requirement, they must be fixed in 21 days or 10 days, what have you. So if you give us till, I think it's 2 weeks from tonight, the next council meeting, I'll get a verbal update made.
Sure. And I think that's when they said they were going to have this one fixed, if I remember the email. Another item, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Through you to the CAO again. Wonder if staff could bring us an update at a future council meeting on what plans we have for the eclipse that's going to happen in 2024. And this Niagara area is the prime location. So I know that is going to be a big deal, and a lot of people coming in, having attended an eclipse in Australia. A town of 5,000 people had 20,000 people show up. And so this could be a very big deal, but I just wonder if the CEO could have someone update us on any plans that we may have.
CAO?
Sure, through your worship to Councillor Bonner, it is kind of a Director Bowles question because he oversees recreation, but I'm kind of passionate about this too, and I have no problem stepping on his toes. As you know from a few conversations we've had, this is not a lunar eclipse, this is not a partial solar eclipse, this is a total solar eclipse. Staff have been working on it in 2 ways for more than a year, and it's more than a year away. For about 2.5 or 3 minutes, this will be the best place in North America to see the event. And we're planning, the 2 ways we're planning, one of them is the safety of moving people. The chief is on a task force actually, because there is going to be that much demand to see this thing. So some people think it's much ado about nothing. People will come from all over, they'll jam the highways and there could be safety concerns. So we're actually working on the safe movement region-wide of many, many, many visitors to Niagara. We're also working on a tourism recreation type initiative. Can there be viewing parties? Can there be places for people to gather safely and watch the event? Our main recreation staff person, Amy Duffy, is coming to the next council meeting to talk about Canal Days for one thing, like Mr. Bowles mentioned, as well as some other recreation initiatives we have planned for the season this summer. And I'll ask her to add to her presentation a little bit of information about the city's eclipse plans, if that's okay. I think we'll eclipse her presentation.
Oh, that's bad. Counselor?
Now I know why I wanted to get in there before Mr. Bowles did, because he was waiting to use that line the whole night. So just to that point on the eclipse, and just from my past experience of being at one, there's a great demand for the special goggles to watch this thing because it's super dangerous. If you think you got the right one, you don't. So if we are going to, and I wouldn't suggest we supply them, I think we should sell them as a fundraiser, but but you can imagine there isn't a whole bunch of these in somebody's drawer, I don't think. So if we're thinking of buying some, we need to get on that sooner rather than later. So just throw that out there. And I think that's all I got. Thanks.
Because you've eclipsed your time. Councillor Hoyle.
Through your worship, I just want to thank staff for their assistance on providing information and mitigating some of the stuff I brought forward to them in a timely manner. And I'm glad to see that Director Bowles answered some of the questions that I've been getting over the past month about Nickel Beach, and see that it is moving forward without delays. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Danch.
I had a couple good conversations this week, but nothing else than that. Thank you.
Great. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Joe, and I don't want to mispronounce your last name, so with the truck study, and the Director of Public Works and I had a lengthy discussion about the truck route, and I was actually thinking about something as you were talking about it. Obviously, the Elm Street corridor is kind of the problematic area, and I know that by using it. And I had mentioned to Steve that there is quite a number of out-of-town trucks that now come into town because, I'll have to excuse myself because I'm not sure what the owner of the Robin Hood is now. I can't remember the name of the company. London Ag. There are quite a few out-of-town trucks that come into the city to deliver there, and they're coming down the 140 because I pass several of them every day. So when drivers are coming from out of town, they only know coming down the 140 because that's where the GPS is taking them. So if we're to take Elm Street out of the equation at that corner at Main, it's going to cause a lot of confusion because we have several businesses close to that corner that have trucks in and out every day. So just keep that into play. And I was also thinking back to when the Director of Public Works and I were talking, if we push everybody out to 58 instead of coming up Elm Street, by the time you get to the end of, or the corner of 58 and Main, instead of making the turn on Main, several trucks that are going down to the elevator may continue straight through down to Kalali and then turn left on Kalali to get downtown, and that puts more pressure on the school that's on Kalali. So just keep that in mind. These are things that I deal with on a daily basis that I see. And in order to restrict truck traffic, I would suggest weight restriction as opposed to a no truck sign. Because no truck signs only stop you if you're using it as a through route, but a no truck sign allows you to go down and deliver. So you are legally allowed to use it even though it says no trucks. Okay? So careful where you make us go. Another quick thing I was thinking about just the other day after a rainstorm, and I'll put this out to the Director of Public Works. The drain right at Clarence Street Bridge, if you're going east over the bridge. So just as you get to where Welland Street is, the drain seems to be plugged because when it's a downpour, it completely floods when you get off of the bridge and go down. And it's not just like a little bit of water, but it's deep. The sidewalk is there too, so it piles up or accumulates up to the sidewalk height. So it's an issue. I don't know if that just needs to be cleaned, even if it's ours or if the Seaway looks after that. But I know that that could be an issue with, even if people are just standing there walking by and whatnot. And some cars may, if they're going through quick enough, may lose control. So I'm interested to see the report on the truck. And then one other comment I had about your report, Joe, was looking at Elm Street to be repaved from Charles to Main. Is there a timeline for that to be done?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we do have a tender that's going out very soon to obtain a contractor to do that resurfacing works. The actual schedule hasn't been finalized, but I'm guessing in the next 3 to 4 months.
Okay, and the reason that I ask is because we've got a development that is proposed on Elm Street, almost at Main. Will they impact the road for servicing at all? And for, I would say, construction vehicles in and out? So would it be prudent to pave before they start? Or is it going to cause problems with the road once they get in there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it would be ideal to have those trucks in development be completed first. However, we don't want to hold up our contract and our resurfacing work, so we do plan to move ahead as scheduled. Hopefully, if the timing is very close, we'll definitely adjust, but the plan is to move forward, and then if there's any damage due to the development, we'll make sure that gets reinstated properly.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. That's all.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Elliott. Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. And Councillor Elliott, thanks for that last one. I know we put it on hold when that started, but so it's been delayed 2 years. The rest of Elm Street, dealt a lot with Steve on it, and I guess there's ways where now that the plans are in, they know where the cut will be. And I think you were talking about you put, what is it, extra asphalt in a certain way so that when it's patched, it doesn't easily break up. I don't know if you can answer that.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. It would just be a proper repair that we do at that time. So we'll put it on a slight angle so you don't feel as much traffic as your tires hit the crack in there. We'll also do an overlap joint instead of just a butt connection that would see the asphalt butt up against each other and possibly move. So it'll make it a more of a uniform installation. So we'll do a proper repair on it to make sure that it does look consistent with the rest of the area, and that'll prevent us from having to continually postpone that area until the development is complete.
Just on that, Steve, so the The lateral from the mains, whether it's water or wastewater, is on our property. So we know from the plans where that egress is going to occur. So is that something that the contractor builds it right into our main, or can we build it from our main to the curb stop? I'm just trying to see if we can get it in before the paving.
Yeah, through your worship, that's a great question. We, so it is possible to do that, depending on the timelines of the development. Services could go into property line for them to connect that property line at a certain point. What we would have to rely on is the developer to have the appropriate sizing for their infrastructure. So that would be the only constraint at this time. So if the stars do align, it could be a possibility that we do have the right infrastructure, and that could go within the roadway before we even pave the area. So that's something we can take back and just see if they are prepared to move forward in that fashion.
Great, thank you. I just have two this evening, both compliments. Joe, certainly thank you for that follow-up on all things Elm and Maine. I was going to ask you, and unfortunately I don't have her name, but the lady who made the presentation and the petition. Do we have a way, I mean, if you can bullet what you said, I think Frank and I'd be happy to try and get it around to people in that area. Or if you have her contact information, just since she sort of led that charge, it'd be nice to give her an update.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. That has occurred
Okay.
verbally. I have reached out to her.
Great.
Well, I still have to get in touch with her. I left a message, but the plan is to follow up with her and anyone that's interested. And if there's an email contact, I can give her a copy of the update as well.
That'd be great, thank you. And lastly, just some thank yous. Last week, we had a number of residents in from the Apollo Oriole Hillside area with a meeting here, very well attended by our staff. There was about 15 residents here, but I can tell you that those 15 have reached out to a bunch of people that weren't there and passed that on. From Public Works, Steve and Joe were there answering a lot of questions. From Planning, David, Denise, and Diane. Mr. Mayor, thank you for attending. I know Frank wanted to attend. Frank happened to just be away on vacation that day, but I know he was interested in it and would have been here had he been around. But I want to thank you all for a lot of legwork you put into it. There's also a gentleman there from Upper Canada Consultants that represented the developer. It was frank, candid, informative. What I most appreciated, and the people who have called me, is your pledge to follow up with them for those questions that couldn't be answered on the night. I mean, just the preparation of drawings, everything else. It was and is very helpful to have that when there's an area of concern like that, where you stop getting onesies calls and you have to explain all that you guys and girls collectively did. So I can't thank you enough, and I know the residents were really appreciative. So thank you very much. If I missed anybody or your staff, please pass that along too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bagu.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of things here. First, one, a big thanks to Dr. Shipakowski and his staff of Public Works. After the latest wind and lake levels, the clearing of the Steele Street storm sewer, Rosemount discharge, the sand has been cleared up really super good by our staff, and I do appreciate that. It's people don't even have to call anymore. It's just almost natural. We go out there and clear the sand away from our drains. I did look at our Eagle Marsh drain. I think the current looks like Bobby Hall's old hockey stick when he first had the curved stick. It goes way radical to the left. And are we still working with the ministry to try and find a solution for all the sand built up at the Eagle Marsh Delta, I guess you call it now?
Staff?
Through you, your worship, what I can do is I can follow up with our drainage superintendent and see what's going on with that. We do have a report on the municipal drain that will be coming forward to council in the future. Right now, the Eagle Marsh drain itself is actually contained within the bridge farther towards Wainfleet at this time, so we don't actually have the outlet structure that you're talking about as part of the actual formal drain itself. So that's one of the issues that will be addressed during that report as well. And at that time, then we can start to see what the best paths forward are within that report to implement construction too. So, but I will follow up with our drainage superintendent just to make sure there aren't any expedited works before that report comes forward.
Okay, thank you. Just, like I said, a lot of thanks to clearing the sand away. The other ones that it might be still becoming a council. I remember somebody mentioning that the storm sewers that go into the canal, there's a video that was coming to council, and I've had a couple of constituents ask me about it, and so I don't really know. So I'm asking, I guess, drainage about it. It has to do with the flapper valves in the canal that have to be replaced because the water level of the canal comes up and then fills up everybody's sumps, which goes into the sanitary sewers, which goes into our wallets again.
Yep, through you, your worship. What we're doing is we're having a CCTV program. So Joe's actually implementing that. He's getting the tender documents ready right now. And we're actually going through all of the storm system within the city of Port Colborne to find deficiencies or backed up pipes or anything that might be amiss. And that would include also the flap gates that are at the canal wall that actually provide closure to the system from the canal itself when there's water in the canal. So we are doing that. That is on our list for this year to complete. So we're just in the midst of kind of getting that program together so that we can do the CCTV work, and then we'll report back on the findings that we have for that program.
Okay, thank you. I guess my last comment, Mr. Mayor, being the CAO, we bring the budget forward early so council can approve it early in order for us to fix things earlier than other municipalities. But then I look on our website and I find very little offers of work that council has passed, that the funds have been approved, but it's not out, the tenders are not out there yet. And so for approving the budget early in order to get a head start on other communities, how come it's not showing up on our website?
CAO?
Sure, through your worship to Councillor Bagu, it's a great question and a great point. I would like a chance to caucus with staff and sort of see where they are, because I don't want to make an answer. I don't want to have the wrong answer or say something that's wrong in the process. I do know that sometimes work gets held up in, shouldn't say held up. There's a design component before there's a construction component. So sometimes a project has been approved, the budget funds have been approved, but there's design work, whether it's sanitary or water pipes, whether it's construction of a building, roof, some component of a building. So maybe in the next, I'll talk to some of my colleagues here and in water and wastewater who aren't here, or I think are here as well. Hello. And maybe we'll give you a verbal update or do something at the podium where we can sort of say what the approved is the approved capital projects, awarded capital projects, and then outstanding capital projects, and give council a little bit of a better sense of when you'll be at a ribbon cutting party.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Seal. Sure. Only because I saw Mrs. Sutter back there reminding me of the drainage, so it's her fault. I brought it up, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few items tonight. Shirkston Community Center on Thursday, March 30th, is hosting a kids craft and bingo night from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and it's a free event for all ages, so I just wanted to advertise that. Next is the Miller Road increase in NRP presence. I've spoken and had communication with the owners that first put in the complaint, so I just wanted to thank the CAO and mayor for pushing forward and getting that increased. And I have noticed, I'm not sure if it's OPP or NRP, but there has been an increased presence on Highway 3 as well. The next item was I came across an article from the city of Brampton, and they had applications for free access ramps for Brampton businesses, and they partnered with a non-for-profit foundation called Stopgap. And so it's just a temporary access that there's some criteria that you have to meet. You can only have one step going into the business. But I wasn't sure if that was something that would be an interest to the BIAs or the CIP programs, and to bring that forward. And I can share that article with whomever would like it. The next is, it came to my attention, and also it went to Councillor Elliott as well, but I kind of jumped on it, so I apologize for that. It's regarding inclusive playground equipment, and so some residents had asked if expression swings could be brought into our city parks. And so I've reached out to Curtis Dray and Director Shapowski about this. So I don't know if you want to address it, or
Steve, you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, through your worship. So it's a great recommendation, and it's definitely one that we're going to start looking at. We'll be sure to include an inclusive equipment requirement within some of the playgrounds as we start replacing them. Yeah, so leave that with us, and we will we'll move forward with it.
Perfect, thank you.
I know you've done it in the past because Sunset Park had the accessible playground equipment put in. So, and I know as older equipment is being taken offline, that is a prerequisite for staff to include. So, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and then the one last item. And I apologize, again, it came across on a news article that I saw, and it caught my eye. And perhaps we're already doing something about this, but it's the Housing Accelerator Fund from the federal government. Are you aware of that?
Brian, is that something that you can answer, or do you want to come back and let the councillor know?
Through the mayor, I'm happy to take notes and come back to council and talk more about this.
It was just advertised. I think the applications maybe begin in June, but it's for all municipalities to put forward any of their housing projects that they might have. So I thought it might be an opportunity for us to.
Yeah, that may not be one of ours because we are a lower tier municipality. That could be the region that could apply for that with regards, because they do own Niagara Housing.
Okay.
But it certainly does come into play with regards to the build at Chestnut Street, and also just in general what Niagara Housing is doing within the city. So, but we can have staff reach out to the region, see how they're involved in that, and if there is any way that we can become involved, if that's allowed within the rules of the grant program. Brian?
Yeah, through yourself to the councillor, just to identify that the mayor is correct, and I just pulled it up, I guess the beauty of having computers in front of us. I do believe we'd be working with the region, and we have a couple projects that council has approved to move forward with the region, so this would be an area, the potential revenue stream for those projects.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, perfect.
Councillor?
That's it, thank you.
All set? Great,
Yep.
thanks. Council, I do have, sorry, Gary. Oh, podium, sorry.
Through you, your worship, to council. I just wanted to mention that actually I did hear from our counterparts at Niagara Region Housing today They've reached out to me. They want to meet with us next week to talk about the Haney Street project. Staff haven't had much to update council on regarding the Haney Street development project, but I'm pleased to get the email today from Niagara Region Housing. So staff will be meeting with them next week, and I think part of that discussion will include a review of any potential funding programs from the province as well as the federal government. So I just thought it was relevant, Mr. Mayor, just given the conversation we're having right now about housing.
Don't leave. With regards to Councillor Aquilina's question for the RANT program, can we have you work on that with Councillor Aquilina as far as how it may get involved with CIP within the municipality and the BIA? Or actually both BIAs, to be quite honest. So
yes,
if you can do that and touch base with Councillor.
Will do.
Great.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, guys. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Before we move on to items, Councillor Bagg, you got my mind racing when you were talking about projects being started and completed, and the major one came to mind. Valley Center roof. Where are we? Any idea? Start time, finish time?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we have a schedule. I believe that they're going to be bringing material and starting second or third week of April 17th, if I'm not mistaken. And once the exact date is confirmed, it will be on our website, and we will notify the public through through our website and public notification as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just because Councillor Aquilina reminded me of something when she was talking about playgrounds. And that's a great initiative, the accessibility aspect to those. And I've been wanting to bring forward something about a playground being built somewhere, Centennial Park. Thinking and I said it, okay. All right. So, we sanitize playgrounds over the years. You can't even get a sliver off of a playground anymore. You can't fall down and get a bruise because you're landing in rubber stuff. A number of communities have started to put in playgrounds. I don't know the name, but I'll call it an adventure playground, where it challenges them. They can fall off of things. It's a real challenge for kids, and they've found that it really is great for the children. Now, I don't want to get kids to get hurt all over the place, but we got to give a little challenge, I think, to those. So I wondered if there was some information that staff has on this, and I don't need it tonight, but please put it in your thought process, and maybe we could actually make one of those, because I think they'd be pretty popular.
So, Councillor, I'm glad you said what you just did, because Councillor Bruno and I and the CAO in Regina last year at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference met with a company on the trade floor, and they had one of these set up. And it was a series of poles where you actually shimmy up the pole, and then you go from pole to pole to pole. And then there's a series of hanging like hoops that they were demonstrating. It was actually pretty cool. I think I still have the magazine, but we are going back, so I'm sure they'll be there again. We'll make sure we get that, because actually Gary and I commented on how cool that will look. And I think it was Councillor Bruno that said, I think they go great in Centennial Park. Because of the room. Because of the room. So, but it's true. I mean, and that's got a lot of space. It's a great area for that type of facility. So we'll make sure we bring that back to Steve's department and within Parks and Rec, and they can look at that. So I'll look for the magazine. I'm positive I still have it.
I think they do have an Ontario office, and FCM's in Toronto this year. So even if we said at the end of the conference, come on down and chat and maybe look at a park or chat with our staff while they're an hour and a half away.
We used to do that when we were kids. It was called the forest out back, the bush area, right? So we may have to build a bush just so people can.
Good stuff. Thank you. Council, I do have a few items that I'd like to bring forward, and hopefully you'll support giving direction to staff. Working at the region, they've brought in what they call community safety zones. And it can be done two ways, and one is the region roads. The region moves ahead, and when we ask for it, to put in a community safety zones zone where speed fines actually double. The second is where the municipality can move forward, and this would be through Chief Lawson's department. But last week I was able to go out and do a day with our crossing guards, and there was 3 areas that have been concerned and that have been brought forward. But over the last 1.5 to 2 years with the region coming forward with this program that the province put out and really solidifying on how it works, and they've started to put these across Niagara. We have Clally Street East, which takes into 3 schools. We have DeWitt Carter, St. Joe's, and St. Therese. We did an upgrade at St. Therese with the sign that puts it down to 40 when school's in, and when school's out, it's up to 50, which is what the public has been asking for, because when school's out in the summer, why are we dropping them to 40? However, during school time, we should be able to make that area and quite the stretch, and I was able to stand with the crossing guard at Elizabeth and Clally East, and they do fly down there. So that's one community safety zone that we can look after because that's our street. The second one is Steele Street, south of Clarence. To me, that's a street we should be putting the same type of sign as we have at St. Therese, where we can gauge the speed limits on when school's not in on weekends, after hours in the summer. The police tend to go to that area usually the first day of school every year. They're parked on Division and pulling people over, but again, a good area. And you do have the high school in that zone too, as a community safety zone. The third is actually the Regions Road, which is Clally Street West, from Elm to Steele, which is McKay School. That, quite frankly, when I speak to the crossing guards and our staff talks to the crossing guards, that is one of the most dangerous areas within municipal streets. So if we could go to the region and ask them to proceed with making that a community safety zone. I did speak at late last year at Public Works, and they asked that we bring that forward as an ask within the city of Port Colborne. The fourth is Highway 58, which is provincially mandated, provincially controlled, which is Oakwood School. And as I said earlier, with the 2 vehicles that were stopped for stunting because of their excessive speeds, I'm not sure how the province works on this. So if we could ask staff to find out if Highway 58 can be included in the community safety zone program, because it's not under our or the region's jurisdiction. So if we can ask staff to come back to us, if I can use that as direction, if you guys will support that, we can have staff come back with these areas within the municipality. I mean, we do have a lot of number of schools, but some of them are tucked back in streets where it really isn't, cars aren't zooming by them. Holy Cross or St. John Bosco now is a school that's not on a major thoroughfare. We do have crossing guards a number of blocks away, but they're not on major thoroughfares. And if council, if you do see in areas where you think we need community safety zones, please bring those forward, because the program is really ramping up now, and I'm sure the chief can fill us in on more information, but it has been working well. And I think we do get a cut of the amps on that, do we not, chief? On the fines?
To the mayor, anything that goes through POA court within the region, we do get a certain percentage.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor.
Just real quick, Mayor, on 58, making a community safety zone, do you think that they would be interested in putting in the flashing lights as well?
At the crosswalk you're talking about?
Yeah, to slow traffic down, because there's nothing, right? Like, there's no reduction in speed at all during school times, right?
The speed limit comes down right to just past, if you're coming in from Welland, just past Sobeys, down to 50, I think.
Yeah.
And then it is 50 coming in from Maine.
Yeah.
So you're talking about moving it even slower with regards to during school time?
Yeah.
If you guys want it.
Would that be?
That would be an ask to the province,
The
correct?
province, yeah. And that would kind of tie into St. John Bosco too, because now you got everybody slowing down, coming to the corner.
Yeah, I
and
mean, it is a
whatnot, so-
lighted corner, it's
Yeah.
controlled, I mean, that's, on most, and it is a busy corner, so, not to say there's not speeders there, because we know there's speeders everywhere, but they do come out of that, shoot, and then as they're coming into town, they're flying.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we could certainly add that if staff wants to take that forward and make that inquiry with the Ministry of Transportation. Okay? You're all right with that, Madam Clerk? The way we've done this? Okay. Anything further on those points, Council? Great, thank you, I appreciate the support of that. And that's it with Councilor's remarks. I apologize, my computer just logged out of the program. Okay, consideration of items requiring separate discussion. Our first item is 8.1. Is the Sugarloaf Street Archaeological Investigation, Report 2023-52, that this be received and that the Director of Public Works be directed to fund the archaeological investigation to the satisfaction of the Ministry of Public and Business Services delivery at an estimated cost of $435,000 from the Infrastructure Reserve. If I could have Councillors Bagu and Elliott move that. I've got Councillor Bruno on up first. Councillor Bruno?
Thank you, Worship. Read with interest this report from Director Szapowski. The thing that I was concerned about in it, besides the price tag, which is pretty heady, is that this project is intended to take 1 month and start in April. And one of the investigation of artifacts and archaeological investigations that I remember quite well was Lakeshore Road West from Tennessee to Oak Ridge, I believe it was. And that was supposed to be a rather short project. And it extended through, I think, 2 winters, and it was a number of months. And it didn't close the road, but there were times when it was 1 lane. And when I think about this particular area at near their field and its implications for the boat ramp, the implications with the hospital there, traffic coming down to Lakeview Park from out of town on Steele and not either being able to go left and all that potential detour. I wonder what assurances, we can get, because I suspect the answer was, we don't know a lot till we dig and get in there. But then there was weather events on Lakeshore West. There was the people that do the investigative work because of the delays went somewhere else for a job they had, and there was nobody for a couple of months. And I guess I'm worried with the impending tourism season, all that we have at Lakeview Park, Port Coburn getting all its visitations there, that Sugarloaf in that area can become quite busy. And so my question is, if barring they can't work expeditiously if it's more hours a day within that budget, or is there a way that this work, is there a reason that it couldn't happen after Labor Day?
Steve?
Yep, through you, Your Worship. So we are proposing a road closure, and what the road closure is going to do is it's going to hopefully expedite some of the works too, because we have a little bit more working area. So we're not planning to excavate the full section of the roadway, but rather into one of the laneways along with the shoulder and the sidewalk in the area. So we don't necessarily need to close the road in full, but it is going to expedite the works because people are going to be able to work a lot easier, a lot quicker. So one of the options that we do have is to keep one lane open, block some of the parking off near the hospital, and then we could have different traffic control arms that allow people to go on a recurring basis, whether it's on a 3 or 5 minute timer, and then we could keep traffic still flowing. That still impedes traffic though, and more people would probably take Steele Street to actually go around back down to Elm to get into or Field End for that matter, to get into the boat ramp if we needed. So it is possible. It's possible well, I should say it is somewhat of a timely manner. So we do need to start in April because we do have our archaeological company that's geared up, ready to go right now. They are ready, and they have kind of fit their timeline in right now. So delaying it, I wouldn't suggest that we delay it, but there could be the possibility that if we do need to open it, if council feels the need that we do have to maintain a lane open, we could do that, but it might extend some of that 4-week duration. So personally, I would tend to recommend that we keep the road closed. We try to do it as quickly and efficiently as possible. And we're even going so far as to provide city staff to be able to try to keep the cost down and expedite the work as well to try to really keep this thing moving. So yeah, it's possible that we could keep a 1 lane open with some extra costs for some traffic control devices, but would still suggest that the roads maintained be closed.
Councillor?
Thank you, that's such a great plan. I'm wondering even if we could ensure, built into the plan, that weekends are open to that if we have to mitigate that. I mean, my biggest fear is that it's a runaway, and while they aren't intending to go across the road, that discoveries may tend to have them expand the envelope, and then we're into a very critical time of year, I think, for that whole area, and traffic and backups and turnarounds and people with trailers on their boats and on and on and on. So yeah, if we can have some sort of a plan B, maybe the weekend, maybe it's the 1 lane, I get it, but certainly once you get into people launching their boat for fishing, it's going to be an issue there, and our events at Lakeview Park. So just to put it on the radar, and you could look into that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I have.
Great, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bagu? You're good? Councillor Hoyle?
Through you, Your Worship. My question to Steve is, will the investigation encompass more than the city right away? Are we going to be going into the properties?
Through you, Your Worship. We do have a defined area that's actually scoped right now, and that's what's been approved by the ministry. So we will be concentrating on that area specifically. There's always a chance that we could find something further, which would extend that search, but that would continue to be on our property, and we wouldn't be going on to private property in this matter at this time.
Yeah, okay. The other thing, because I was contacted about this stuff, so some residents had some questions. The other thing is, did the MPBSD give us like a time frame?
Steve?
Through Your Worship, there's not a specific time frame, but time is of the essence. They do want this to progress as soon as possible. So although there hasn't been a specific timeline, there hasn't been a specific timeline because we've been working with them to come to this point.
My only other concern is that if they keep finding things of interest and where that may take us and where the price tag may take this in reality, right? That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Further questions? All in favor? That's carried. 8.2, the Public Works Department Report 2023-31 be received. The council accept ownership of the Emmanuel Lutheran Cemetery located at 5194 Beach Road, Sherkston, Ontario, LOS 1RO, Lot 3 and 4, Concession 1, Plan 35. The council authorized the Director of Public Works to complete a survey of the lands required for ownership transfer and retain resources to update the cemetery software database for a cost of $15,000 to be funded from the 2023 operating budget. The council direct the Director of Public Works to apply the City of Port Coburn cemetery rate structure to the Emmanuel Lutheran Cemetery effective immediately, and the council authorized the CAO to sign the transfer to Cemetery Care and Maintenance Trust Fund account information sheet and the cemetery transfer and acceptance of the municipality of mutual consent forms as required by the Bereavement Authority of Ontario, the BAO. I have Councillors Bodner and Hoyle moving that. Councillor Bodner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think both Councillor Hoyle and I are going to share some of the questions that are in here, unless I grab them all at first, but I don't think so. So we're in the cemetery business in a big way. We already own one cemetery. Here's another one, and within this Emmanuel Lutheran Cemetery, there is the Beaches Burial Ground that we own already or maintain already. I'm sure it's in, sorry, I'm looking at who's going to answer this. So I guess, and obviously this is the right thing to do, to take this over when the people that own it can't look after cemeteries. And just looking around, I think there could be some more coming our way too in the future. I guess I just want to make sure, I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways, the question. Like, are we financially prepared for this? Because this one, we might be able to squeeze into our plan, but are we looking for the next one that's going to come along? And, you know, and it's almost getting like we need a specific person to look after cemeteries. I know we have good staff doing it right now. But anyways, that's some of my questions. If we could just get updated on how we're handling this and can we handle it and things like that. Thanks.
Welcome. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, so very excellent questions. At this time, I would say we're okay and we're equipped to handle an additional cemetery. So if additional cemeteries come online, we would have the choice of either accepting it or not accepting it. But again, the cost to potentially not accept it, we've got to weigh that out. But also, we don't necessarily have to sell them. So we could, there's many different options you could do. So if we don't look to sell them in the future, we get extra cemeteries, our costs wouldn't necessarily go up other than the general maintenance. We do incur some costs right now, but we're looking at the fee structure to make sure that we're doing a cost recovery model. So lots of different options that, depending on what comes down the pipe, we can definitely look at different models of how we operate and present to council.
Yep, go ahead. So through your worship to Councillor Bonner, and I certainly don't want to contradict our staff person, Curtis Dray, because what he's saying is true, but there's also, and I think hopefully we'll see Mr. Bowles' ears perk up here, there's also a question about principles, the principle of cost recovery and who should pay for government services, because we know, and so we're going to be back before council with a presentation on user fees, a presentation, sorry if you were going to say this, a presentation that sort of asks the question that council will have to choose because it's a policy question. And as you know from training, council works in the policy realm and we work in the operational realm. We can't go back to our past cemetery users for more money. We can only go to our future users for more money. And then there's an inequity. Why are people who are future cemetery users paying for past underfunding? The third stream of money is subsidizing it from the tax rate. There are many folks who are paying taxes today who won't use Port Colborne cemeteries. They'll use them elsewhere, or they'll have cremated remains, or so on. But yet they're being asked to pay the shortfall between revenue and expenses. So the answer is right. Financially, we have the money. But the second question is, where is the money coming from, and is it fair and equitable? I would suggest that the most important part of the conversation is the dignity of the human remains of the people who are in our cemeteries or in a different cemetery that will come to us. But there's another question around some of the financial principles. So sorry to take so long and sorry to contradict staff, but that's something that's coming down in future council meetings. We probably can't decide tonight.
Councillor?
Sure, I think we should be looking to keep these cemeteries up as good as or better than the people that were doing it before. You know, a lot of us have families in cemeteries that are generational, and I think we would want them kept up that way. So, you know, we should do that for any of these we inherit. So I think Councillor Hoyle has some questions. If he doesn't ask the couple I got in mind, I might be back. Thanks.
Councillor Hoyle.
Through your worship, I think a lot of my questions have already been just answered now. The other concern that some people came forward to me they're worried about how the transfer of the property would affect their plots that they already put down for. And I would assume it will carry over with no changes. Am I correct?
Curtis?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. So a purchase is a purchase. It wouldn't change the price at this point. This would be for moving forward.
As for, I think we're going to end up being in the cemetery business anyway. Because isn't it kind of like an obligation out there that when cemeteries, for better or worse, have issues or get abandoned, it gets furloughed to the municipalities?
Curtis?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So, yeah, is there an obligation? There is a requirement in the BAO that says at the end of the day, basically, if the board of directors, the board of management can't continue to maintain a cemetery, that they can request that the municipality takes it over. Again, there's significant costs associated with that we need to be aware of. The care and maintenance right now, which is, again, on the low side based on where we should be, based on the cemeteries we have, to maintain them. So we need to look at that, the revenue models, that sort of thing, just to simply break even on them. So we need to be cognizant of that when we take them over. But again, there's an obligation for us to do the right thing and honor what's there and the level of service that's currently in place that we've been maintaining. We want to maintain that same level of service. And if we're adding multiple cemeteries, we need to look at the financials of it, for sure.
Yeah. Councillor?
Oh, I think all the other questions have been answered, so I thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bruno?
Thank you, Worship. I think both councillors are right. I think we're already in the cemetery business. I have a question and then a comment. My question is, we're taking over a cemetery that, unlike many others that have been abandoned, seems to be actively being taken care of right up to now and has some additional plots in it. So that would mean to me that the perpetual care fund is still there alive and we're going to take that over. Is that a fair statement?
Curtis?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. So the funds that are currently in place will be transferred to the city.
Okay. As you know, we kind of have looked at cemeteries and looked at the main one that's active that we're currently providing internment in at, is that Oakwood?
Overholt.
Overholt, beg your pardon, thank you. And so that obviously has, like every cemetery, a capacity limit. And I'm just wondering, when we look at the ones that are closed, if we look at this one with 272 plots left, does that now create an opportunity to look at that entire inventory? Are there other cemeteries that are closed but had available plots in them, the rather small ones, I assume? But at the end of the day, this may shift the focus from either acquiring more land at the main one and the expense that all that would take. The other question I had for you, Curtis, is because this originated as a particular faith-based cemetery, when it comes into city hands, is there any issues regarding that? Can any member of the public be interned there?
Curtis?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So our bylaws would apply to the cemetery once we take it over. So it would be open to anybody looking to purchase.
I guess just finally, why I think this is important, because there's other time and resources looking at other cemeteries that, you know, if you're looking at the average going into Overholt and the average here, and this next generation of people who are cremation, columbariums, cremation on top of existing graves for multi-members of the family. I mean, 272 and what's ever left at 10 or 20, 30 a year could add up to quite a significant amount of capacity. And I would suggest, and I'm sure there's data on it, that in terms of actual plots are probably falling. Or I mean, if you took this cemetery, I know at St. Joe's, the one on Lake Charisse, they're all falling because of cremations on top of plots that are already there of family members, columbariums. You know, we need to look at this active inventory and the averages. And I know Mr. Bowles is quite erudite on all of that stuff. I'm just wondering if this presents an opportunity that actually rationalizes some costs that have been put forward. I don't know if that's for Curtis and or Mr. Bowles.
Either of you?
Well, just through the mayor to the councilor and council, I think the councilor is putting forward that we do have a capital project put forward to expand one of the current cemeteries. And with respect to, if we're going to take over a current cemetery that has X number of plots, and with the case that's been presented that perhaps the full body plots versus the cremation is changing the dynamic, I think it's worth, from staff's perspective, they're all good points, and we appreciate council bringing them forward. And we'll have to, I think, over the coming weeks, kind of do that analysis. And it's very possible that the current approval for the expansion of the part of the cemetery isn't required, and it may be something that comes back to council to reconsider, because there is other opportunity to expand in this cemetery or others. So I think we take it more as a staff kind of comment or direction to be able to continue to work with our model of how cemeteries will actually be utilized going forward, and if we actually need to expand going forward.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Bodnar.
Just one. I thought, I don't know, was the last council before, didn't we ask, and I think staff worked on a business case for the cemetery to kind of lay out how we can recoup monies to keep them going? Maybe I'm wrong, but if it's out there, it might be as easy as reviving that and see whether we got to tweak it.
Brian?
Yeah, through the mayor to the councilor and council, we did do, and actually it was the director of public works that sat down. There was about 6 or 7 of us that worked through a very detailed calculation and came forward with what the rates would need to be to get to full cost recovery. And we presented those rates during the budget process, and I think council had suggested that those rates were a little bit above what some of the other competitors, comparator municipalities, I don't know if there's competitors in this business, but comparator municipalities would have had. And we said, well, we'll take it back and we'll get the updated information. And since then, a number of municipalities have actually been in the paper and pushed their rates up quite considerably. We do intend to come back with some information on user fees and represent that to council, so council can reconsider those user fees with respect to burials going forward. So we do actually have the information right ready, and we can come back to council pretty quick with those rates to bring us to full cost recovery on a burial.
Councillor?
So we will get the comparators though, right? Local cemeteries around that we can actually look at.
Yeah, through the mayor to the councillor, yes. And last time I think one of the issues was we just gave it as an average, but we'll give it to you like by each municipality so you can actually see the comparators.
Okay, further questions? Councillor Baggio?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had this item also lifted. A couple questions. Financial implications. To fully fund the annual operating expenses identified, the city would need a perpetual care account of approximately $430,000. Where, can you explain that? I guess Director Bowles, he's the money guy, I guess.
Yeah, through the mayor to the councilor and council, it's a calculation that basically says if you want to be able to pull the $8,600 that's noted in the report as the operating cost, you would need a perpetual care account of $430,000 to be able to take the interest that you had earned and let that perpetual care account also grow with inflation. So it is a large number, and it's the same problem we have with the other cemeteries that we've taken over, that the perpetual care account is considerably less than what would be needed to maintain the cemetery in perpetuity. And there's a lot of reasons for that over a period of time. It's the difference of when legislation came in with respect to and how they could be used over a period of time. So in identifying that, there's no ill will that there was an ill use of the funds previously. It was just time has changed, and the legislation of what you have to put aside has changed over many, many years. So unfortunately, when we take over a cemetery, we're normally taking over a cemetery because there are not the funds to maintain it. And but ideally, that's what we would need to have in the perpetual care account, should we not want it to fall in the tax dollar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, also, does the city have any perpetual care accounts for any cemetery, or?
Yeah, through the mayor to the councilor and council, we have just over, I think it's $200,000 in cemetery perpetual care accounts. The audited statements are being worked on right now, and when we come back with the user fees, I'm happy to update council on the exact dollar figures at that time.
Okay, so through you, Mr. So that's for all the cemeteries. Okay, good. My other question, I guess, when we get the new fees coming back right now, like the town of Fort Erie and township of Waynfleet have different rules for non-residents and residents. And with this cemetery being allowed to, or the church actually from Ridgeway, which is Fort Erie, being allowed to continue to sell plots in Port Coburn, there could be some sort of conflicting prices, I guess you could call it, when you bring this back to council. If council decides to have a resident and non-resident fees, Mr. Mayor. So I don't know if he wants to comment on that.
Brian?
Yeah, through the mayor to the councilor and council, it's actually going to be staff's advice to move through the user fee update in a two-step process. Staff is just finalizing a presentation which we'd like to come back to council with probably at the end of April to talk about principles of user fees, and we would establish the kind of the when we would or wouldn't use local versus maybe non-local type of opportunities, and then we would come back after that with respect to the cemeteries and update that after that. But we do believe it's important to set the principles and when we'd like to set local and non kind of a local fee, and then move forward from there.
Okay.
Councilor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Further questions? Councilor Bodnar?
I'm sure you thought of this, but the local and non-local, a lot of times people have grown up here and they have moved away for, life. But their intention always was to come back and be buried in that cemetery. So, and I guess if you're drawing a hard line, then they aren't from here. But compassionately, the family may be buried there, and the intent was always to come there. So, anyways, so.
CAO?
So through your worship to council, I appreciate the commentary, and staff will definitely follow council's guidance when it comes to setting user fees, the same as arena or, cost marina and so on. But I really want to be careful when we get bogged down in some of the discounts that apply to cemetery plots, because really what you're talking about is how long we'll be subsidizing cemetery operations. We really got to look at what the cost is versus how we'll recover the cost. There's a local municipality that shall remain nameless that recently said, we know we're not charging enough and we have to raise the prices a lot. But in order to make that satisfactory to the public, we're going to sell plots at the old rate for 6 more months. And really what you're doing is just delaying the inevitable and really costing the people who aren't using the cemetery more money to supplement cemetery operations. So we'll bring some proposals forward that are best professional advice. Even the comment about matching our comparator municipalities and so on. If we have a list of 5 municipalities that are wrong, it doesn't make sense to also be wrong just so we can match them. I think we're going to show you some best practices. There might be some lack of agreement in the community, but it might be a Band-Aid we have to rip off so that we're not adding to the operating budget in the years to come. I think it's going to be a bit of pain, but I think it's going to be the right principles of user fee and cost recovery to help council maintain the service for years into the future.
Okay. Councillor?
So if you want to grab a cheap cemetery plot, you got until a few weeks down the road. It's a spring sale, and just saying.
All right, further questions? All in favor? That's carried. Item 8.5 is the strategic plan trimester update 2023-50. That the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer report 2023-50 be received for information. I have Councillor Bagu moving this. Councillor Denchke, second this? Sure. Thanks. Councillor Bagu?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in one of the reports, it stated that the, excuse me here, I just had it here. In progress is the site of the black oil tanks to be decommissioned during Q2 2023. Who owns those? Do we own them? Why are we putting in this report? I'm under the impression now that we own these oil tanks. Is that true? Or
Mr. Long?
Through you, Your Worship, to Council, the black tanks in question are owned by JFL Environmental, who lease land from the Seaway. And obviously from the city's perspective, given some of the waterfront redevelopment plans that we have at the end of West Street along Sugarloaf, the city's very interested in seeing those black tanks relocated so that we can continue to expand the footprint there for waterfront redevelopment.
Council?
Okay. Thank you. And another one, Appendix B, it just has some projects listed in there, but it has no proposals, no status or no completion date. Example, the roads on the second and third floor electrical refits, the PA and audio system replacements. It just says no funding source or timeline status listed. So I sort of don't understand. We want it to be done, but there is no time, there is no money, but we want it eventually. In a perfect life, eventually it would happen. But I know the PA system has been neglected for quite a bit of time. Even the mayor's made comments trying to talk through it. And basically what I'm seeing is, I see it says in here the senior management team makes recommendations, and they're the ones that decide which projects go forward first, which second, which ones we're going to hold back for 2 or 3 years. My point is I would like to see more council get more involved in that, because I think council's priority might be different than what the senior management team's priorities are in the future now. And that's just a comment, I guess. And the other question, I guess, is what is the CAO Awards on Excellence program? rollout? Like, it says something's rolling out in Q2, the CEO awards, but what is it?
Mr. Lon?
Through you, Your Worship, to the councillor. I'm sure the CAO is mindful of your comments in terms of council's involvement with city projects and initiatives, and I'm sure he'll take that under advisement, and suffice to say that the corporate leadership team wants to work collaboratively with you and your colleagues to prioritize priority capital projects and initiatives throughout the city. So I certainly appreciate your comments. In terms of the Rose Lawn projects, I think it's important to note that with the implementation plan, I provided that to my colleagues at the leadership team level as well as the senior management group, asking everybody to provide any project updates that they wanted to make council aware of. And I think you can see from the implementation plan, there's a lot of projects underway throughout the city in all of the divisions and all of the departments. Some are further ahead than others, but if there's some projects that don't have a status report to your satisfaction, I can certainly go back to my colleague and we'll make sure that we get an update for you on that. With respect to the CAO Awards of Excellence, perhaps my colleague, our Chief Human Resources Officer, may want to provide comments, but it's an HR strategic initiative that HR and the leadership team are working on, and we'll be rolling out sometime, I think, in the second quarter as part of a corporate culture initiative, and part of an appreciation recognition initiative as well. That's important to city staff. Maybe I'll turn it over to my colleague. Yes,
I'll turn it over to Mary. But just quickly, Councillor, through your worship, we've had some great performers among the city. We do recognize them internally from time to time. We have applause recognition software, which is a software type app, like a social media, but just for the inside of the city. But I have an example. We have so many great employees, but there's an employee who made a change to how one of our operations operates. Union member who stepped outside or above the call of duty and saved tens of thousands of dollars a year in energy costs in one of our facilities. And that one change, I think, needs to be, that's the type of change. And they happen all through the years and all through the seasons in all departments, from everyone from students to the heads of departments. And I think those are the kind of things we'd like to recognize on a more grand scale, if that makes sense, than through the awards program or through some of the internal pats on the back that we do into something that's a little bit more formal and organized. I'll go back to my seat at the council table, but I'll let Mary finish the explanation here.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. The CAO Awards of Excellence is a new program. We're just finalizing the details and working with our manager of corporate communications on the materials. But it's a new program where staff will be able to nominate somebody in the organization. There'll be an award for each one of our values, and then one award for a team. So a team that's maybe worked on a project. The example that Scott just gave us would be eligible for that. And there'll be a nomination process. Awards will be handed out in the fall of each year at an all-staff town hall meeting. We're hoping to have a big staff meeting over at Roselawn. And so we'll share all of the program materials with you once they're finalized. They're just with communications right now for branding and sort of making it look really great.
Councillor?
Okay, thank you. I guess my biggest complaint is a reader's staff report. I don't understand what it is, but everybody else seems to know what it is, staff. And then as councillors, you read it and you have no idea what it is. And I guess it comes back to communication, Mr. Mayor, and we still need it. We still need improvement in communication, Mr. Mayor, through, I know we have the quarterly reports with the CEO and all the directors. Maybe it was coming on April 4th, but I have mine. I don't know. So probably was anyway, so. I guess I'm good with the rest, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I get Gary to go back up? Just because Councillor Bagu struck a chord with me, and when I had read it, and the report is extremely thorough, and it would take a couple of days to sit down and go over a bunch of things, but just this one kind of struck with me. Talking about Roselawn, the action, it says in progress, create a renewed vision for the Roselawn Center in concert with community partners. Is that part of the second and third floor electrical retrofit? Do we have plans for the second and third floor at Roselawn? And that's why we're upgrading? I'm just trying to get caught up on what the usage of the upper floors will be in the building. Gary?
Through you, Your Worship, to the councillor. I'm not sure that I'm by any means the expert on this, so I would defer to
Okay, sorry.
our CAO.
Sure, I could jump in a little through your worship to Councillor Elliott. You know, we love Roselawn so much. One of the barriers is that it's a historic building. The accessibility to second and third floors aren't, you know, what we would have in a building if we built it today. We want to showcase it for the community as much as possible. I would suggest that community partners is a reference to Lighthouse Theatre, who have an operating arrangement where they're actually administering the theater side for the city, on behalf of the city. So if you want to have a production at Roselawn, you would arrange that with Lighthouse, rather than in the previous arrangement, you'd arrange that with the city and city staff. So they're administering that side. Community partners are also the Friends of Roselawn and the other user groups who go there from time to time. Everything from knitters and artists and so on to rentals like bridal teas or private functions. We've also moved Roselawn in the last, since the start of COVID, I guess, to the museum and culture department. Stephanie, who is the director of that department, Powell Baswick, has an affinity for the historic nature of the building and culture generally, and is working on that. We have plans in the next few days for some engineering staff, theater staff from the Lighthouse, that is the outside company, museum staff, and myself to walk through and take a look at some of the wish list construction items that are on both the theater side as well as on the city side, and see how we can get them prioritized and put into some kind of a capital plan where the money matches the projects, but it's not all done at once, and see how we can access the second and third floor in a safe way that's accessible for everyone and affordable for the city, if that makes sense. So I'm sorry if that's too vague of an answer, but we're going to do a walkthrough in the next week or two and have that very conversation.
Okay. Yep. Just one follow-up question, and this might go to Mr. Bowles. How did we get $640,000 in a reserve fund for Roselawn?
Mr. Bowles? Yeah, through the mayor to the councillor and council, I know when I joined the city, there was a number of projects that people were looking at doing at Roselawn, and those were previously approved. And I think some time had passed. And we sat down and we said, are these the projects that you want to do or not? And one of the things that had, one of the big projects was this grant application. There was a grant application for about $3 million, I think, put out there to potentially completely redo Roselawn. And we weren't successful in that grant application. So what ended up happening was we closed out those capital projects into this reserve, and they're sitting, those dollars are sitting here in that reserve. There's a couple things from timing that are going on and have been going on. One, as the CAO noted, Roselawn's gone through this new change. It's now come under the Museum and Roselawn group, and they're creating that vision for the future of Roselawn for council. And then there's the other component, which is happening this year, which council approved the building condition assessments that were done. And so we're in the process of doing all of the facilities right now. And I think the hesitation to maybe the PA system's not the best example to why that's not done at this point in time, but the hesitation has been to make any significant recommendation on the building until you get the building condition done and until that final vision for Roselawn is done by the cultural groups within the city. So those two coming together, council's input will create the next phase of Roselawn. But that is the genesis of where those funds came from. They were set aside from a couple projects, and people sat around the table, and there was a report with a number of projects we closed out that came to council, and we closed them out, and we said, we'll put the funds in the reserve until all these other pieces come together and people make a very good informed decision with respect to how to move forward.
Yeah.
Councillor.
That's all. Yeah, we're good.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess through you to Director Bowles, who was talking about Roselawn. One of the projects that's been going on Roselawn for many years is accessibility. They had the old ramp coming up in the west part of the building, which was unsafe. And I remember past council saying, like, being told that we need a new ramp for us to get accessibility in there. I'm sure it's not there yet, and it's been probably 4 years. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, they got to move forward. Somebody's got to move forward and get these projects, and accessibility is probably one of the most important for that building. And not just, well, we're going to wait and see till we get a plan, you know, blah, blah, blah. But let's move forward and get accessibility in there.
Well, there is an accessible rear stairs, replaced the ramp. The ramp was there for a long time, but it became unusable. But when you go in which is now the theater entrance, those stairs are accessible. There's a lift that's attached there that actually takes you up to the dining room level. Then it takes you down into the old basement level, which actually goes into the theater. And then there's another lift which is over in the bar area that takes you from the dining room level into the bar and the double parlor, the blue room, which is what my great grandfather called it, where the fireplace is, and then the back sunroom. So, but we are talking with staff, and I've had conversations with both Stephanie and other staff with regards to, because Lighthouse looks after that entranceway now, where do we put our level of lift that goes into probably that back hallway somewhere in there, where it can be put in without too much. It actually would be attached to a newer portion of the building as opposed to the historic portion. So, but there are 2 lifts in there. Yeah. So, okay. Any more questions? All in favor? That's carried. Item 9.1, Communities in Bloom. This was an invitation letter from Communities in Bloom to participate in the 2023 provincial edition of Communities in Bloom. I have Councillor Aquilina with questions. Councillor Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wasn't sure if the city was thinking about participating in this, only because I think it would be a great exposure, tourist exposure for the community. You know, we had the students here from DeWitt who are looking at improving the community, and I think, if I remember correctly, Councillor Bruno and Councillor Elliott are part of a beautification committee. So I don't know what the preparation time would be to participate in this, but I think it's something that we should consider maybe moving into.
Okay. Is there a staff member that can comment on this? Or who's familiar with this?
I guess for now, me.
CAO?
So through your worship to Councillor Aquilina, when the item first came in on the to the clerk's department, I was asked by staff what we should do with it, and I said, let's put it on council agenda as correspondence, and let's circulate it to all the directors of the city for their information. That took place, but we haven't really discussed it as a city initiative yet. I think in order to compete, I think to nominate our community as one of the communities, there would have to be a project lead, but probably involvement from a variety of departments, especially as we try to engage. And the Communities in Bloom program, it's been a few years, but I was a worker at a municipality where we had a nomination go all the way to the global level, and some staff from the municipality, or council members, I guess it was, went to Rotterdam, Netherlands, for the final awards, and they were in the top 4 globally. But the principles behind Communities in Bloom is that it extends beyond city facilities and initiatives into the community, your own house and gardens and so on. So I think it would be probably strategic initiatives in tourism, economic development, probably partly our city horticulture division of parks, horticulturalist and so on. So I don't know if council wants to make a motion that we go forward with an entry, or if we just want to do it as staff direction, or you want to report back maybe on the viability. I'm just trying to see if there's a deadline, because I don't remember. I mean, we could come back to the next meeting at council or two with a staff report on the viability of a nomination. Is that something that maybe strategic initiatives could do? Yes. Okay, can you give us 2 meetings, the second meeting in April? Would that be okay?
Yeah, I just want to have it on our radar, like if it's not feasible to get an entry in this year, like I think we should
for future
consider for next year. Like I have no idea how long it takes to plan like a horticultural
plan
action.
Yeah. Sure. Through your worship to Councillor Aquilina, let's start with 4 weeks from now with the staff report, and some of the comments you've just made can help guide the direction the staff reports takes. And we'll see what we can do.
Thank you, CAO. So I'll have Councillor Aquilina, seconded by Councillor Bodner, that we refer this to staff to come back in 2 meetings with a report, whether we move forward in participating in Communities in Bloom. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Councillor. I apologize, I got in here. I can't, it says how to participate, but there is no date that I could find on this, so I'll leave that to staff. Okay. Item 9.2 is a letter from the municipality of North Perth regarding school bus stop arm cameras. There's a proclamation here that they passed, or a resolution, I apologize, that they passed. I'll go to Councillor Aquilina because she's asked for this to come forward. Councillor Aquilina.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. So this kind of goes towards your safety initiative that you brought up earlier, that I think the residents on Miller Road brought this up, that cars are passing school buses while the children are entering the school bus. And I just think it would be, I don't know if there's an opportunity for us to participate or support, but.
I would move to support, and then we can let municipality of North Perth that we actually have done this, and we can also include the people they've circulated it to, which is the Premier, the Attorney General, the Minister of Education, provincial opposition parties. I would include our MPPs in Niagara, and then also their MPP, AMO, and they've already put it to all municipalities, so I don't think we need to send it to all municipalities, but we can show AMO our support.
Okay.
If I get Councillor Bodner to second that. Any further questions on that with regard to supporting? All in favor? That's carried. Again, thank you, Councillor, for bringing that up.
Thank you.
There are no motions this evening. Are there any notices of motion? Okay, seeing none. We have minutes of boards, committees. We have one set, the Port Coburn Public Library Board minutes of February 1st, 2023. If I could have Councillors Bagu and Danch move that. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, so bylaws, council, I'm going to do these, I'm going to take 3 of them, move them in block, and then I'll go to 20.3. So bylaw 20.1, 20.2, 20.4. If I could have councillors Bruno and Elliott move those 3. Are there any questions? All in favor? That's carried. Item 20.3, we bring that separately as it has been amended. If I could have councillors Hoyle and Danch move that one. Any questions? All in favor? Those are carried. So that ends our business for the open session of council this evening. We are going into closed session this evening. If I could have Councillors Bagu and Bruno move that council do now proceed into closed session in order to address the following matters. Minutes of the closed session portion of the March 6, 2023 special council meeting. 21.2, Human Resources Verbal Report pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. 21.3, Chief Administrative Office Report 2023-60, pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsections 239F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Questions? All in favor? That's carried. Again, we thank everyone for attending this evening with regards to our grant program. We thank the staff that was here tonight. We thank you for joining us on our virtual mode. Other than that, this portion of the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.